every school year. What a relief to see all of you, because God, it'd be miserable if you weren't here. So really happy that you made it. I want to introduce some of our school board members. I think we may have more join us later, but I think right now we're lucky to have with us our longest serving board member in TUSD, Jonathan Abelove. And then, of course, Lynn Davis, Francine Cento, Tammy Bullard, and James Laird give their best. They're a phenomenal group. I want to thank Maggie Villegas for that video. How about that? Isn't it great when you have somebody you can say, hey, I think we need something to jazz up the beginning, and this is what happens. It's just terrific. And thanks to all the principals, teachers, classified staff who participated in the video, and our very own video production teacher at Tustin High School, David Waldron, did the editing. So we've hired some people this year. Thank goodness for a little bit of money. We had just a great summer of hiring 14 administrators. 8 of them were promoted from within the district. 6 brought from outside, and that's an important mix that we get the local knowledge, history, and culture mixed in with some new ideas, and so we're really pleased to have new people in new positions and new people in the district. If you're at a new site as an administrator, would you please stand? Let us recognize you. Now watch this number. If you are a new teacher to Tustin Unified School District, would you please stand? We had over 93 teachers hired, and that's because I stopped counting at 5:30 last night. HR was still busy. We may be adding to that number. But if you stop and think about it, we only last year had 850 teachers, so we've added over 10% of our faculty this year. And what I'd like to do is challenge and encourage all of you who are in the 90%, it's not your first year, get the other 10%, our new folks, brought into the fold and get them up to speed, because we're going to need every bit of them. We really look forward to the contribution that they'll make to our students and to our schools. Hey, I want to tell you what we're going to do this morning. I'm going to talk to you about a little bit about last year. We're going to celebrate some things, and then we want to talk about TUSD Connect again. And that's a little bit of a reinforcement of kind of taking stock where we are in this process of Common Core, instructional signature practices, and technology. And then you're going to hear from a friend of mine named Ron Archer, and I'll give you an introduction of him, but just a phenomenal teacher, person, mentor. And so I'm really pleased that he's going to join us with a message later this morning. So I want to talk to you about the multiplier effect. You know, the cabinet and I, we spend a lot of time thinking about what is it that's going to give the Tustin Unified School District student a competitive edge going into college, career, life. What will it be? Maybe a new textbook adoption. No, that might not do it. Maybe a new gym. Well, those are good. We like those, but no, that's probably not going to do it. A new course, a new practice. How about new technology that we've been spending so much money on? And what we keep coming back to is all of those things are good. They're all great tools, but it really is the people that are going to give our kids the advantage. And then that presents a whole new dilemma. If it's the people who are going to make the difference for our kids, how do we get more out of our people? Because you guys work hard, right? Everybody in the district's working hard. And we're doing the right work. So if we're already doing the right work, we're already working hard, how do we get more? And so the district administrative team, the leadership team, spent some time this summer reading The Multiplier Effect by Liz Wiseman. And the multiplier effect talks about bosses, some of whom tap the genius, the native genius that is in everybody around them and makes the entire organization stronger. Other bosses diminish the native genius in the people around them and push that genius underground. And so we've spent time talking about what the behaviors are of each and how we're all going to exhibit the behaviors that tap the genius of the people around us so that we can get the best contribution from everybody in the organization. And I wanted to share that with you because we're making a commitment to you that you should feel like you're being used to your fullest potential. And that's important to us, and it's important to the kids that you're going to teach. I also want to mention that genius is already happening, right? A lot of people have been tapped. Some of you have been tapped more than you want to be tapped. And so because of that, we've had a phenomenal 13-14 school year. And so some of that work has been highlighted in a video that Mark Elliott, our Director of Communications, has produced. And so we want to show that to you now. Please enjoy.
A year of high achievement for students. A year of new standards and instructional strategies. A year of focused and coordinated effort from staff. A year of quality facilities where technology is integrated into the classroom. A year of parent and community partnerships and fiscal responsibility. For the Tustin Unified School District, 2014 has been an outstanding year of learning. Consider that district graduates continue to matriculate to the best universities in the nation. And as we roll out the TUSD Connect initiative, faculty and staff have made great progress. The challenge of implementing new standards and integrating technology into new instructional strategies has expanded our organization. The implementation of the Connect initiative has met this challenge.
The rigorous curriculum, the emphasis that we have on skill acquisition now in the classroom has been most rewarding for what the students are now able to do, the confidence that they are gaining in their own academic ability.
40 rigorous curriculum trainings were attended by teachers throughout the district. In addition, 350 teachers were able to participate in the creation of new tools and structures that align with the state standards.
The students' work have drastically changed with the technology. We are now able to offer them more choices about what they do. We are now able to really just have them reach out more. They have now the internet in literally the palm of their hands. They are able to collaborate. They're able to just navigate so much more of what's out there that it's really opened up a whole new world of teaching.
Technology training is a key component of the staff development picture. Deepening the level of technology training in as practical a direction as possible, 13 teachers have been designated as digital learning coaches. These coaches meet weekly with over 100 teachers to help them implement instructional technology in the classroom.
Before I had my digital coach, I thought I was pretty tech savvy, and working with her, I realized that there's so much more out there to learn, and I realized that, you know, having an expert that you can collaborate with can really transform what we're doing in the classroom.
The most important aspect of being a digital learning coach is really taking students and teachers along this 21st century learning path. We're here to support and give guidance and help all along the way. It's definitely something that, with all of this technology, I don't think teachers can do it alone. They need the support and help, and that's what we're there for, and we love it.
We can benefit students through shifting the instruction of teachers using technology. And so it's a combination of many factors that I wasn't expecting at first. I've been really excited about helping teachers build curriculum that conforms to the new Common Core standards.
Having a digital learning coach has freed up the way that I approach classroom instruction. I always wondering, I would love to do this, but I don't have the time. If I had only had an expert to help me with, having the digital learning coach has allowed me to take that extra step that I otherwise wouldn't have been able to take.
Classified staff has been included in the learning initiative through the Classified Leadership Academy.
The Leadership Academy has given me all the tools to interact with all levels in the school district, including principals, assistant principals, secretaries, nurses, employees. I think it's been a great class.
I would absolutely recommend the Classified Leadership Academy to all of the classified employees. if the opportunity is given to learn and be able to use the skills that you learn and apply them to a different position, hopefully a promotion for them, then I think that it is a change in the positive direction.
Additionally to the Leadership Academy, they offered the classified classes this year, and learning iPad training, Excel, Word documents. I mean, Google Docs. I can't wait to start on Google Docs with my job. I just think it's going to make my job easier. I can't wait to share the information with my colleagues, and I just think it'll streamline everything that we're doing over at Beckman High School to make it that much smoother.
Another key element of the Learning Initiative is the interest-based site leadership training.
We're all in this together. So we should be working together, and using this model, this interest-based model in Tustin Unified, truly brings us together in an amazing way.
The interest-based approach is different in that you come with your interests. You see where those interests have commonalities, and then those are fairly easy to then say, okay, we're going to do those. But then you look at the things that you disagree on, and you see, well, how can we make this a win-win for children in the classroom?
I think the interest-based approach plus the professional development, and as far as for classified, I'm better prepared to represent the district, to represent what their goals are. The communication piece in the IBB program and the professional development program is like key to our district. And knowing all the workings in the district, we've learned of different departments, we've learned different positions, we've learned different leadership roles. We've learned to be the best that we can be.
As a result of this outstanding year of learning, Tustin Unified School District students continue to excel.
I think iPads make learning a lot more fun.
I use my iPad's video application to enhance my social studies projects.
With my iPad, I can use charts for science, pictures, and label the pictures with an app called EduCreations.
I think using iPads helps us learn digitally.
With the iPad, it made research easier for me, and it opened up the world of possibilities.
The highlights hardly stop there. Our STEAM programs have been expanded to all secondary schools in the district. The engineering programs at Foothill and Tustin High Schools continue to gain accolades. Over 10,000 iPads were deployed to students in grades K through 8, and all classrooms were upgraded with modern instructional technology. This includes new teacher computers, interactive displays, document cameras, voice amplification, and Apple TVs.
It's been an incredible year in 2013-14. It's been a year of learning for students, staff, and support staff. I'm very proud of the work that everybody's doing and the manner in which it's being done. Go TUSD. Thanks to Mark Elliott, and thanks to all of you who participated in that video. If you're on the tape, would you please stand? Let us say thank you to you. There she is. While the house lights are up, give a hand for Lynn Davis. Thanks for coming, board member. So I want to highlight some of the accomplishments and really thank the people who have already been sharing their genius. If you see something that makes you happy, feel free to throw those balls, right? It's a happy day. So how about 8? Can that be right? 8 distinguished schools last year? How about if you're from a school that's distinguished, when I call your name, let's hear it from you. Stand up and be recognized. Arroyo. Beswick. Gwynn Foss. Ladera. Myford. Tustin Memorial. Peters Canyon. And Tustin Ranch Elementary. Congratulations. It's a lot of work that goes into being that good, and then also that whole application process is pretty amazing. We had one other school that won a exemplary program award through that process for physical activity and nutrition. Only 2 schools in all of Orange County, 30 in the entire state, won that. Congratulations, Tustin Memorial. The next award, I think, is one of the most special that is given in education. Title I Achieving Schools, Beswick and Curry. Congratulations. There's an old football coach, he's retired now, Bear Bryant. Gosh, he may be passed away by now, but Bear Bryant retired from Alabama, but he had over 300 Division I football wins, most of those wins coming in the SEC, the Southeast Conference, arguably the best football conference in America. And he coached at A&M, Kentucky, Alabama, different places. And his fellow coaches used to say about him, Coach Bryant can take his'n and beat your'n. But he could also take your'n and beat his'n. And I think that that's such a compliment that it doesn't matter what group comes to the coach makes the difference. And I think what's special about Curry and Beswick, it doesn't matter what the parent education level is, it doesn't matter what the home language is, it doesn't matter what the poverty level is. They will not overcome or be more important than a skilled teacher in a great school. So proud of Curry and Beswick. Way to go. We had some trainings last year, mostly this summer. My gosh. How about that Literacy Institute? How was that last week? I was impressed that so many of our folks were there, and the job that people did in preparing for that and facilitating and giving presentations. It's nice to tap the internal genius that we have in our school district. And I don't know if Stephanie Yang is here this morning. Is Stephanie in the room? But Stephanie Yang coordinated that entire event for about 800 teachers, 6 days of training, about 25 presenters. Just an incredible job. If you are a presenter or a facilitator, would you please stand so we can recognize you? Thank you for sharing your genius. We also had teachers getting trained in GATE, EL, technology, the Literacy Institutes last week, the UCI science training, AP classes, IB classes, just incredible amount of training going on this summer. I want to talk about the genius of our school board. You know, we don't talk about them very often, but you know that Measure S, Measure L, Measure G were all initiated by the school board. You know that most school districts have still not come out of recovery from the financial crisis, but our board, through their fiscal management, we came out of that much earlier than most. And we don't talk about them very often, but they set the direction, they set high expectations. And Lynn and Jonathan, I like this most of all. Then you get out of the way, and we go do the work. I love that. So give a hand to our school board. Here's another group of people I don't talk often enough about because I'd rather talk about what's going on at the schools. But our cabinet, person for person and as a group, just a phenomenal group of people. And you would be so proud if you saw the work that they did day in, day out, and the lens through which they do it. Is it best for kids? How will it affect our teachers? What about our certificated and classified staff? Is it going to propel the district forward? And so I want to recognize the genius and the contribution that they make to the district of Lori Stillings, Tony Soria, Crystal Turner, Kathy Nielsen, Julie Mitchell, and Mark Elliott. Please give them a hand. Teachers of the Year, phenomenal. You know, if you take a look at the people who get selected as Teachers of the Year, they're outstanding teachers, obviously, but the other thing is they make all of us better. They're good colleagues, they're good mentors. And so I'd like to recognize if you've been a District Teacher of the Year in the past, or if you're one now, would you please stand and let us recognize you? Thanks to all of you for sharing your genius with us. 2 State Teachers of the Year, that never happens in any school district. This is old news, but I'm so impressed I threw it in anyway. Paul Lewinsky was named Teacher of the Year for the state of California in 2004 when he was at Tustin High, and David Goldenberg in 2013, and they just continue to represent us so well. You saw Shauna Whiteside in the video, and Shauna, I'm sure, is at Arroyo this morning getting work done. But Shauna represents the classified staff, and really what's the best about our classified, and that is they are connected to our mission, they're great caring colleagues, they're service-oriented to students, staff, and parents, and we're lucky. We couldn't run the schools without them, the classified staff. Talk about genius. How about those digital learning coaches? They're phenomenal. Not only great teachers, but great with technology, great coaches, again, great mentors. Nothing's too small or too big, and they take it on full steam. If you are digital coaches, they may not be here this morning, but they're going to come to the second session, but I'll tell them that you clapped really loud for them, the digital learning coaches. I know that we have some fellows here, and I'm as impressed with the fellows as the coaches, because last year we said, hey, we're looking for digital fellows, and we talked a little bit about what we thought it might be, and we had people apply. I was shocked. I thought, my God, you guys would jump off the building and not know if there's a net at the end. We had 108 digital learning fellows. If you're a fellow last year, would you please stand? County Nurse of the Year last year. Did you know that? Lynn Rogers. It's a picture of Lynn and all of our nurses. Isn't it reassuring that there are people in the district who think about students' well-being every day? Every workday, they're thinking about our students' health and wellness. And I wanted to mention Lynn's recognition as Orange County School Nurse of the Year, because it also highlights that we've added, for the first time in 15 years, a new district goal. Right? We have the 5 goals, and it's always about student achievement, facilities, budget, et cetera, et cetera. But we've added one now on student wellness. And you guys have seen better than anybody, up close and personal, the effect that the last 5 years of the financial crisis has had on families and how that plays out with children. And we've had way too many instances of kids hurting themselves. And so the board has put in place a new district-wide goal on wellness, and as a result, we've hired 4 or 5 student wellness workers, mental health workers, a social worker, and so you'll be having, you see those people, you'll meet them, and you'll have them for support when your kids need it. Jennifer Smith, science teacher at Pioneer Middle School and the Milken Foundation Award winner. Congratulations to Jennifer. Jennifer is, that's a really nice title, but the $25,000 got her attention. $25,000 award. And I wanted to mention Jennifer too, because she really represents a bigger movement in the district of the whole STEAM initiative. And I want to take just a second too to talk about what a great partner TPSF is, Tustin Public Schools Foundation. How many of you, your classroom or your students, have directly benefited from TPSF's donation? Look at the hands. That's terrific. So we've just recently, we're going through a process where we are going to help make it easier. If you would like to donate to TPSF, you'll have the option of being able to do that through a payroll deduction. And there'll be news that comes out about that. I just want to let you know that I donate to them every month. 94 cents of every dollar that they bring in goes to program. And in the nonprofit world, that's an unbelievable number. You can't go wrong. So look for more information about that. And Joanna Vandal at Tustin High, the Avid Teacher Award. Avid's another one of those programs with a noble cause. Take students and get them prepared for, accepted into, and excel in university. And these are kids who would not otherwise have been able to get there. And so again, this program overcomes neighborhood, parent education level, home language, poverty. So congratulations to Joanna. and really everybody who's associated with AVID. Tustin High School this year was just added as a national demonstration site for the AVID program. So we're very proud of their work. And finally, Max. How many of you know the Max story? Max is a student at Arroyo, has brain cancer, fighting the good fight. His parents put all of the energy into staying positive, taking care of Max, but also trying to make something positive for all other children with cancer. So Max had a Lumathon last year. That led to one thing to another. Eventually, he's on the Jimmy Kimmel show in the upper left-hand corner, and over $150,000 were raised to battle juvenile cancer. And that was last year. This summer, a couple of teachers at Arroyo, I think it is, Robin Chillingworth and Kathy Denny, decided they're going to have a second annual Lumathon. It's going to be September 14th, Pepper Tree Park. Within 24 hours of them sending out an email to some friends around the district, 10 schools have signed up to participate in that Lumathon. Last year, after so many schools and kids participated in the Lumathon, and some of you did lessons in your classrooms about it, Ashley McNamara at Myford asked her students, so what did you learn through this project? And one of her little guys said that a kid can be a hero. Great work. Now I'm going to show you a slideshow of my summer vacation. Actually, this is from my summer vacation. And my wife, Debbie, is the second from the right, and my daughter, Sarah, is right behind her. I'm the one across the boat in the goofy hat. I thought I needed more shade. So every summer we take a vacation, and during our summer vacations, we try to do something that we would not normally do, right? Something that is novel for us. And so whitewater rafting is certainly novel for us. Never done that before. And so I called the tour company and I said, hey, we're in town. We went to Breckenridge, Colorado. Called the rafting company. Hey, we want to take a rafting trip. Thursday is the day we have available. And they said, what kind of trip? And we said, well, we've never done it before. We just, we want to get on the water. Well, our beginner trip is full, but we have another trip that we think you'd like. Oh, okay. What's the other trip? Well, it's called the Numbers, and it's on the Arkansas River, and it has 7 rapids in it that are Class 4 rapids. Oh, okay, I'm an idiot. I'm Class 4, that's right. That must be on like a 10-point scale. And the woman, this is a clue I should have taken. The woman says, well, can you swim? Yeah, but we don't want to. We want to be in the raft, not swimming by the raft. So anyway, they talk us into it, and there are 2 rafts on this trip. And if you didn't know, a Class 4 rapid is like the second highest. Class 6 is the highest, but it's non-navigable. You have to carry your boat around that. So Class 4 is pretty high. Class 4, I just read about the direction, or this morning I looked it up to see what the technical definition of it, and it says, swimmers are at risk of death. I didn't tell Debbie. So we get there, there's 2 rafts. We're in raft 1, then there's raft 2. Raft 1, they put all of the novices in one raft. And I'm thinking they're trying to preserve the experience people, throw us to the wolves, and the experienced people will all make it to the bottom. But we had a really good guide, and he gave us very specific directions. And he said, it's really important. He said, the revenge of the river is cold and wet. He said, you do not want to be in the river. So when I say paddle, you go forward. And if I say paddle 2, you paddle twice. If I say paddle 3, you paddle 3 times. If I say right 2, that means the right side of the boat, paddle twice. And we're sitting on the side of the river, not in the water, practicing. He's calling out things and we're practicing. Left, reverse 2, you back up. And darned if we got in the water and we didn't do pretty good. Nobody fell out. We all made it to the bottom. We didn't see anything, but we survived, right? We're just waiting for the paddle commands. Just tell us what to do. But in the end, we got there. Now, boat 2 had a lot of experienced paddlers in it, and they look sort of like freestyle swimmers and divers. You know, they're making stuff up as they're going down the river. And they're doing donuts, and they're going head into the rapids, and then surfing on the rapids for a while in place, and they're just doing stuff that look crazy. But you know what? We both got to the bottom of the river, safe and sound, no problem. And so what it made me think about is there's lots of ways to get through this river of TUSD Connect, right? We got the Common Core standards and the strategies and et cetera, et cetera. It doesn't really matter which boat you start on. The important thing is don't be a swimmer, right? Don't be a swimmer. Be on one of those boats, and we're going to make progress. We're going to get to the end of the river, and we can all celebrate when we get there. So this is a review of TUSD Connect. I'm going to do this because I under-communicated this last year. I heard somebody, and it was a teacher, and I thought, oh my God, I didn't do a good job. They said, you know, that Connect thing. So TUSD Connect, it's about connecting kids to the disciplines, the language of the disciplines. It's about connecting kids to the world. It's about connecting teachers to each other and to the kids. So many different levels of connection. But the real nut of it is rigorous new standards, engaging instructional strategies, supported by instructional technology. Doesn't that sound like what we've been doing? I hope it does. I hope it sounds a lot like what we're going to be doing more of. But would you do that with me? Rigorous new standards, engaging instructional strategies, supported by instructional technology. So let's take a little closer look at what all of that means. I'm going to go through these standards pretty quick. It's not so important that you know what other people's standards are, but I think you're going to see some themes develop. For example, in math, here's what it says. In equal measure, students will work on operations, mathematical operations, right? Adding, subtracting, multiply, divide, solving for x. They'll also work on conceptually understanding those things. And finally, they'll work on real-world application of those concepts and skills. This does not sound like a math class that I've ever had. Right? The math classes I had were do problems 1 through 29 odd at the back of that section, and solve for x. There was very rare that we ever did any application, almost no conceptual understanding. But look at the math standards now. In equal measure. In equal measure, that's like every third day you're doing applications. That's right. So very different, right? There are shifts in the Common Core, but you're going to see this theme emerge throughout all of the disciplines. Rigorous standards in language arts, close reading of complex texts, more reading of nonfiction. Not that we're getting rid of literature, but it's more of a balance. Students should be able to do structured argument, ground in the evidence of the text. And then more writing across the genres. And here the genres they're talking about is opinion writing, narrative or informational, and explanatory. Sounds a lot like what we do as adults, right? That's the kind of writing we do. That's what we're trying to prepare kids for as an adult life. Rigorous standards. There aren't just standards for math and literature. There are also standards for history and social sciences, the sciences, and technical classes. They should be teaching the language of their discipline and preparing kids for the 21st century workplace skills, critical thinking, collaboration, communication, creativity, and citizenship. And that takes us to engaging instructional strategies. Isn't that really just another word for signature practices, right? So let's go back. We know that TUSD Connect number 1 is rigorous new standards. Number 2, engaging instructional strategies. Number 3, supported by instructional technology. So the new instructional strategies, there's 2 slides of them. Debating, collaborating, evaluating, inferring, explaining, applying knowledge. Wicker is an avid set of skills for text highlighting and note-taking. ERWC is a nonfiction writing program at the high schools. Performance tasks. DBQs is a database question. It's sort of an APIB type questioning where you give a kid a lot of material, some text, some charts, maybe a video clip or a cartoon, and then they have to draw inferences and conclusions. Reader's workshop, writer's workshop, you're very familiar with those, CGI math. Take a second and just chat to the person next to you. What do these have in common as far as instructional strategies? I'm not going to spend very long. Take 1 minute. Ready, go. Okay. I appreciate you taking a minute to do that. Call it out. Anybody from the audience, what do these these instructional strategies have in common? Call it out. I can't see any of you. Student-centered, somebody called out. Who's doing the work in these strategies? Students are doing the work. If you're working harder than the students, something's wrong. What else? Thinking. They all require thinking, more than just recall. What else? They need facilitation, and they need expert facilitation. Thank you. What else? I'm sorry? Rigor. They require interaction. They require processing. And there's a couple of phrases that I just think really sum up all of these things. One of them is task determines performance. Right? If you want a kid to be better at a performance like writing or reading, here's the secret. Have them write or read. Right? That's important. So task, the task that you're asking kids to do determines the performance. Here's another one. Relevance raises rigor. Something that matters to the kid, it seems like there's a real-world application, the kid works harder. They're more engaged. These are the themes of all of these strategies. Finally, the person who's doing the reading, writing, or speaking is probably the one who's doing the learning. So the more we've got the kids doing that work, the better. Finally, instructional technology. Thank goodness for the board and the community supporting Measure S. I think Tustin Unified, we're in better shape than almost any other district I know of as far as technology to support all of that work. But is the technology the goal? Absolutely not. The goal is the learning, not the technology. You know, I have some quotes that I wanted to share with you about these strategies I skipped. So I'm going to go back and do that. A Benson student, I heard this from Dina Vella, talking about CGI. When I'm learning CGI math, I feel like my mind is on fire. Becca Valdez, doing reading and writers workshop, had Orlando in her class, and at the end of the school year, Orlando had been a handful. Orlando was a reluctant reader, I think was what we refer to them as. But at the end of the year, he said, you know, Miss Valdez, you're right. Reading is a gift, not a consequence. It's pretty good. And Kristen Paulson, she's an 8th grade teacher at Orchard Hills, last year tried to incorporate the idea of gratitude into her class as a theme, an overarching theme through the year about showing gratitude. And she also talked about handwritten letters almost becoming extinct, right? It's the age of technology. So without any prompting, it wasn't an assignment, nobody asked them to do it, some kids wrote Miss Paulson a letter at the end, and I'm just going to read you a portion of it. It says, Dear Miss Paulson, we thought, who in our lives deserves a neat and thoughtful handwritten letter? This is handwritten. We realized that handwriting or handwritten letters are on the brink of extinction. So this is your handwritten letter just for you. You are an amazing teacher, whether it's with power writing, this I believe essays, reading responses, or our writing notebooks. You inspire us, and we love you. Go, Miss Paulson. I don't know very many kids whose minds are on fire when they're doing the worksheets. Right? I don't know how many kids are inspired by 1 through 29 at the end of the chapter. But teachers who are employing these kinds of strategies are really making an effect and an impact on kids. And there are lots and lots of those stories. So, thanks again to our community and the board for our instructional technology. And this is the third leg of TUSD Connect. So TUSD Connect is rigorous new standards, engaging instructional strategies, supported by instructional technology. We're going to get better at that. But none of that matters as much as the teachers. And if you can't see it, it says, I teach. There is no app for that. And I think that sums it up pretty well. I want to get back to my summer vacation. I mentioned we try to stretch. And when I pick stretch, novel stretch kinds of activities for the family, they're usually physical. When my wife picks stretch activities for the family, they are not physical. So we took an art lesson. Now, this is a little self-disclosure here. I'm feeling pretty vulnerable. Be kind. I think this is good enough for the refrigerator. I'm not going to put a frame around it, but it's a watercolor thing, and it's sort of like that river, right? I might be in the first boat. I took a lot of direction. I looked over other people's shoulders as I was doing my painting, but I got better at it. And I got something at the end that I think people can tell what it is. What do you see? Yeah. A hut, a cloud, a couple trees. It's basic. You can get the idea. But one of the things that I learned about watercoloring is you can keep watercoloring it for a long time because you can continue to add layer over layer over layer, and it continues to make the picture evolve. And I think that's the goal of our TUSD Connect journey. We're in the river. Stay on a raft. Do not become a swimmer. But as you continue that practice, keep adding layers. We're not expert yet, but some of us are getting close to that, and the rest of us are moving in that direction. So I appreciate all of the work that you do in that area. One of the questions I do hear is, why, especially from the community, not from us so much, but why are you guys so worked up about the Common Core? That's an evil thing, right? The Common Core. And so, we have to educate them about what it takes to be successful in the world. And as soon as you start talking about that to people, they lighten right up because, they go, well, that's right. We really do want people who know how to solve problems, communicate with each other, etc. But we talked a little bit last year about the coming jobs war. James Clifton is the president of the Gallup poll, the Gallup organization. And he said in this book, The Coming Jobs War, there are 7 billion people in the world. 5 billion people are of working age. The numbers are getting smaller. 3 billion people want a full-time, good job. Good job means full-time living wage. Only 1.2 billion of those jobs exist in the world today. And instead of just being small-minded and say, well, then we're going to compete for those 1.2 billion jobs, which is not a bad place to start, we need to create more of those jobs. And Clifton makes the argument in his book that the way to create jobs is to create customers. The more customers you have, the more jobs you're going to produce. And the way to create more customers is to get your employees engaged in the mission of your work. And so you probably noticed, I hope, that we altered the staff survey a little bit. We gave the staff survey in April. If you didn't take it, I really want to ask for you to do that this year and take it seriously. We'll give it in April again. We want to measure our engagement, right? That's important, and there's a number of other questions that help us, and we're doing some work around. And, our engagement was pretty good. Here's some data from our staff surveys. I enjoy coming to work and the people that I work with. 88% said yes, district-wide. That's teachers, classified, K through 12, district office, maintenance yard, 88%. I use my strengths every day at work, 95%. Pretty darn good. I have conversations with my colleagues and my supervisor about best practices, 85%. Those are pretty good engagement numbers, and I think mainly it's because we're a school district where everybody's committed to the mission. But it's not true of our students. We also gave a student survey, the Gallup poll survey of students, and nationwide, Gallup finds that 80% of elementary students are not engaged, or are engaged, but then that number gets smaller, 60% in middle school, 40% in high school. And I'd like to tell you that these are the national numbers, but they do not reflect Tustin Unified School District, but they do. Our numbers came out almost exactly that. And Tustin Unified, we're not used to being normal, right? We crush county, state, national average of ACTs, SATs, CSTs, high school exit exam scores, et cetera, et cetera. And so we need to get better at engaging our students because we cannot be complicit in the numbing of the American workforce, right? Engagement matters. And if you go back to those slides that we took a look at about instructional strategies, aren't those engaging? These are the things that are going to engage kids, right? And so our job is to continue to engage them because if we will engage them, they'll achieve more. And when they achieve more, they gain hope, they gain confidence, they gain independence. And that's our goal. Because with that, more jobs, less crime, better health, and world peace. Pretty big. It's a real pleasure for me to introduce to you my friend Ron Archer. I've known Ron for 40 years, I think. And so Ron is one of the best teachers I've ever met. He's the one who inspired me to become a teacher. That means he's older than I am. But Ron has been a teacher at Saddleback Valley. He's been a math teacher, an English teacher, an activities director. He's been a mentor teacher. He was Orange County Teacher of the Year. He's been journalism teacher, yearbook advisor. If you name a job at a high school, Ron has probably done it, and not just done it, but hit it out of the park. And I'm so pleased that he's here to share with you the story, The Good Teacher. Please welcome Ron Archer.
Thank you very much. Good morning. I'd like to say hello to all my friends in the back right. That's where I sit. Listen, I appreciate so much the opportunity to be here because when school starts, I ask my wife always to pray for me because the first 2 days without the kids are often the most depressing. Because it's not uncommon for me to have experienced, hi everybody, the air conditioning doesn't work, the classes are full, we know. There's a plumbing problem, but we hope to have it fixed by the end of the first week. We didn't get those books. We have a new program for you because the scores were a little low. Hey, have a nice year. And I come out of the in-service feeling like, fine, just give me the kids. Just give me the kids and I'll be fine. Stay out of my room. Stay out of my room. Ah, we are of the same mind. But, okay, without the support, okay, of a board, and of a district office, and a community, and mentors, our job is different. So it never really works to leave me the kids and stay out of my room. Because I'm going to call you to take some of the kids out of my room because they're hurting the other kids. I'm gonna call you, to come to my room and bring me, if you can't give me air, bring me a big fan, okay? So, I like the idea of being able to be here on this day, okay? Because what happens is we get the vision and we're here to be a part of that vision. But then we have to go back to that room, and we have to sit in that desk, and we have to put those things up on the walls. And the first few days, we're full of energy. We're ready to go. Bring them on, sort of. Okay? And then we have this like cycle. Now, those of you who are new teachers, God bless you. Come on in, all right? Good for you, all right? Because if you're a new teacher, you should know that there is research, and mentor teachers know there is a little cycle, okay? And the word, in November, the word despair applies, okay? You guys have been teachers for a while. You know that it's like, oh, yeah, I'm a new teacher, yeah. October, November, right? Raise your hand if you know what I'm talking about, all right? But now, new teachers, you should know that depending on the classes you teach, maybe by October, November, December, but for sure by March, you'll find all the rest of us with our head on the desk going, why am I doing this again? Okay? As a teacher, what happens in that classroom is our responsibility with the support of all the people we do need to be part of our job. But we come to the point on the first day, the second day, the 10th month, the 4th month, we find ourselves with our heads on the desk going, why am I doing this? Who is stupider than I am? And then this little voice goes, you asked for it, okay? You could earn more money somewhere else. What's your problem? And then you're like, because I am a teacher. And I am brave, and I am strong, and I will survive. I don't know about you, but I have stood in classes, in front of classes, sophomores. I will teach this class. You will not prevail. There will be learning. Sophomores are like, we're just so cute. How could you deny us the opportunity to be cute? I don't know, because there's learning to take place, okay? Cute aside, learning is happening, okay? So today I want to talk to you about what happens when the vision comes inside the room and the door is closed and you're in that room with the kids where it happens. And I realize that every time somebody comes up and says, this is the vision and this is where we're going and you've done a great job, that you're like, great, but there's that whole other layer to the watercolors and I have to do it, okay? Yes, you have support, absolutely. But you have a huge responsibility, and you know that's a huge responsibility. So I want to talk about things that the teachers who have been around already know. So I don't want you to think like, oh, yeah, okay, like I didn't know that. Of course you know it, because you're a good teacher. If you're a new teacher, I want to remind you of some things that you need to be keeping in mind as you go through the year, okay? I don't want to bring you new things to add to the battles and the burdens that you already have. But I want you to be thinking about what adds layers to that watercolor that Greg was talking about. I want you to think about what makes you better as a teacher. And you can't do them all at once. And some of the best things you do as a teacher are things you didn't even plan. I'll bet many of you have a practice in your classroom, a point at which you pointed to the board and out of frustration you said, you know what, think of these numbers as people in line at Disneyland. And all the kids went, ooh, and you went, seriously? Okay. And then that became something you've taught for years. Sometimes in desperation, our best lesson plans arrive, okay? But I don't want you to take them on as a burden. I want you to take them on as something that's reflective. I want you to know that good teachers, which you already know, good teachers are reflective. They think about what they do in the classroom. The California Standards for the Teaching Profession says that being a reflective teacher is one of the hallmarks of being a good teacher, to think about what you do. So I want to spend time this morning talking about the good teacher, okay? And I'll tell you straight up, here's what I think. Behind Common Core, behind California State Standards, behind the shifts, behind all the three-letter words that stand for programs, there is a good teacher. Curriculum doesn't make good teachers. Programs, standards don't make, yeah. Okay, Thank you, I'm done. Thanks for stopping by. I think there's a lot of confusion that says if you learn the curriculum, you're doing well. No. I mean, yes, but no. Behind all those things is a good teacher. Great teacher, very subjective, right? You sit in your room and you go, I'm a great teacher, aren't I? And the whole greatness thing, somebody decides that, okay? Oh, you're better than this person. Your kids are better, so you must be a better teacher. God bless the people who have those lower kids. And I've taught honors, I've taught lower, I've taught middles, right? And Dr. Franklin / Greg made a statement earlier about a school dealing with kids whose backgrounds or neighborhood bring them to the school with certain challenges. We'll put it like that, right? Sometimes the teachers with the honors kids, the high kids, we think, well, your job is a lot easier. It's not, okay? Honors kids and their parents are incredibly whiny, all right? Okay. But the point is, a great teacher sometimes gets decided on by things like whose scores are the greatest, okay? Or who has the flashiest this and that. Elementary, I love you. You know, many of you think your career depends on what your room looks like. Okay? And many of you know that the mothers will go home and talk about it. Well, Mrs. Jones had a jungle in her room. You know. I've talked to elementary school teachers who are like, it's back to school night, it's open house, my life is over, I'm not prepared. And I'm like, you know, it's okay, you know, you may not be the great teacher because you didn't have a laminated jungle in your room, okay? So you know what, I think maybe we ought to not worry so much about being great. If you're great, somebody will come along and give you an award, okay? And that's wonderful. But a good teacher is always easy to spot. And I'm delighted to work really hard to be a really good teacher. And then let somebody decide if I'm great on top of that, okay? So I want you guys to think about the idea of being a good teacher, that behind every program, every curriculum, every bit of technology, there is a good teacher. So let's talk about that, not as a burden, but as a time of being reflective. Raise your hand if you understand what I'm doing here, okay? I'm not trying to make this tough for you, but I'd be really happy if when I'm done in a few minutes here, you say, you know what, I'll work on that this year. Maybe not now, because I've got to go laminate stuff, okay? But later, I'll work on stuff. You guys are funny people. When Dr. Franklin / Greg asked me to come by and talk to you, I said, okay, great, we'll get together, because, you know, what is it that you'd like to have me talk about? So we talked about it, and I met with some people from the district office. And so we sat down and talked about it, and I was like, oh man, look what these people are saying. This is what I heard people who you work for say. Well, you know, stuff will go wrong. Well, the device doesn't matter. And I thought, you somehow seem to be in touch with the classroom, okay? I teach. There's no app for that. Resilience, refinement, and rigor are important. Now, up here in the first three, I get it, okay? It's about good teaching. But you know what's here at the bottom? We have some expectations for our teachers. We're not just going to sit around with our teachers and go, you know, do your best, stuff will go wrong, you know, well, don't worry about the device, just teach away. What we hear at the bottom here, whoever said that, says, look, you got to stick with it, you got to keep working on it, and you got to make it count, okay? So you have some strong expectations from your district, and I appreciate that. You also have an understanding of what it's like to be a teacher. Two of the most important things I heard people from your district office say when I met one were these. Teaching is an art. Wow. If you're a good teacher, you know that very few things happen without a lot of thought, and everything is planned. But somebody brings a video camera in the room and you look like you just walk in and you're like, hi kids, how's it going? And you're like, no, I have positioned myself by the door by maximum openness and community gathering. I have greeted each one of the children with eye contact because I want them to know that I have, and you're going off the list like, hey, doesn't this look easy? But watch what's happening. There's a checklist. I am such a stinking professional. If you take this frame by frame, I want more money, okay? And the last one, I'm going to go ahead and, because I got permission to say this, your superintendent said that. Almost makes me cry. Everything that matters happens in the classroom, okay? We have a lot of support, and you can't have a school without your support staff, your board, your community, your district office, your clerical staff, your maintenance staff. But to understand that the classroom is where it happens is a huge benefit to you. So I'm delighted that you get to have that kind of confidence and to move forward. So I'm glad to be here. You know what I'm going to talk about. Let's get going. Here's where you guys are right now. It's a couple of days before school. And that would be you in the cutoffs. I like this picture, and without any actually talking about it, Dr. Franklin and I chose water-based themes. I like this picture because I think it represents what happens right about now. You are making the jump off the high dive. That's you, committed, okay? And some of the people in the stands are thrilled to see you do your job, and some people are waiting for you to miss the tank, all right? Some of those people in the stands are teachers, your friends, who they're jealous about your laminates. Some of the people in that audience are students who are determined that they didn't make Mrs. Jones run screaming from the room, but you will be the target this year. Some of the people in that audience are community members who are sure, you know, Common Core, you know, socialist evil, and so you're gonna be in trouble. And when you look at that, this guy, I'm going to guess it's the guy based on the bathing suit. This guy has a lot in common with being a teacher and where you are right now. This guy is what I would call fearless, because I think that's really scary. But I'm sure this guy is aware of the danger. I wrote down some qualities I liked about this guy. He's respectful of the danger, but he's committed. He's practiced. He knows what he's doing, okay? Or at least he's fearless enough to make the leap. Now, you new teachers, it's like, there you go. That's you guys, okay? But you know what? That's everybody else too. We experienced teachers, we do that. We have to step to the end and go, hi, kids, understanding that we know things like experienced teachers have practice. We've made a few belly flops, and so we feel more confidence. But we all have to take that leap. I don't think people understand the idea that when you're a teacher, you are locked in a room with 20 to 30 to 40 kids on a cruise that lasts 180 days, whether anybody likes it or not. And from the word go, the love and respect you have to have for who showed up on your ship, you have to say, I love you, I look at you, and I think there's trouble. I heard about you, but I love you, and I will teach you. Do you guys know what I'm talking about? That takes a tremendous amount of commitment. So this is where you guys are now. I'm really impressed with the people who are sitting on the edge of the pool. I think those are your colleagues. Because if all your colleagues sat at the top of the pool and you're like, oh, my friends, and then you overshoot, there's a problem. I think they're sitting there. I think they're sitting there at the corners to kind of give you a double reason to focus. I don't think it's a coincidence, okay? That they're sitting the way they are, okay? So here you are, you're all set to go. You are making the leap, you're making the commitment. And so what am I asking you to do? I'm asking you to listen to 3 things I think the good teacher should be about this year. Not to make you guilty, not to give you stuff to do, but to make you reflective, okay? So let me talk to you about 3 things I think good teachers have to do. Good teachers, reflective teachers, like yourselves, have to ask themselves tough questions, okay? Here's the first question you might want to ask yourself, if you haven't already. Why aren't all my students going to be equally successful, and what does that have to do with me, okay? What? My kids are not going to be equally successful. They're in my class. They're in my district. Okay, well, it's time to wake up, all right? They're not going to be equally successful because of all the things that happen to them on the way to your class. Your most successful kids fall apart when their family does, or their dog dies, or they get hurt. This cruise, this thing that looks so good on paper, will turn when events come to your classroom, and you know what I'm talking about. The question is, if you have this tremendous responsibility, if you've taken this leap, I am a teacher, then what happens when kids are not successful? All of your kids won't be successful. They won't, and it won't be anything you can do about it. Depressing, but true. The question is, what's that got to do with me, and why aren't they all successful? It's easy to know why they're not, but what's that got to do with you? Here's what it's got to do with you. You have to also ask the question, why aren't I giving up? Why am I not giving up? Good grammar. Why am I not giving up? You know why you're not giving up? For the same reason that you decided ahead of time that when those kids showed up, you would teach them. For the same reason you became a teacher, because you will prevail, okay? So the question becomes, if I know they're not going to be successful, how not successful? How much of a complete failure is this going to be, right? And I think it's really important when you talk about teaching, which is a creative art. I had a quote from a book I read about someone who was involved in a creative art management situation where they had to work with artists and engineers to create theme parks, amusement parks. And the person said it was a big deal in his organization to make sure that the focus was always not no because. The people with the money always said, no, you can't do that because. No, you can't do that because it won't work. And he said it was a big deal for him to try to get the people he worked with to say, yes, if. And I think that's a big deal in the classroom. We spend a lot of time going, it won't work, no, because. That kid's not going to be successful because of this and this and this. And that's an important point. We can't bear the burden of the things that we can't help. But we can say, yes, if. No, that kid's not going to make it because he's da-da-da-da. Okay, good, done. Yes, that kid's going to be successful if I do this. Do you guys see the difference? Now, how much can you do? Teachers can only do so much. But because we have hope, because we care about the kids, we're willing to say, what about that if? If and hope are tremendously connected. So you have to ask yourself the question, why aren't my students going to be equally successful, and what does that have to do with me? Now, if the answer is my kids are not successful because I'm messing up, the kids don't know those mitosis and meiosis because I got confused when I was teaching them. All right, well then, how about maybe it's a little time to reflect on, maybe take some flashcards up for yourself, when you teach it, all right? So let's not just assume, oh, I am a teacher, I've jumped off, I've made the commitment. You guys have work to do too, but that's an important question. Would you guys agree? Yes? Okay. Let's keep going. Why can't I teach alone? Leave me alone. Now, you can do that to the administration maybe or the district or whatever. Leave me alone with my kids. But what about you and your colleagues, okay? Why can't I teach alone? And for some of you are like, oh no, I can. I can. Lunchtime, don't think so. I'm grading papers, all right? Faculty party, don't think so. Got the family. You know what, also? I don't want to see people after the week is over, okay? I've already talked a lot. I'd like to just go home and be very quiet, okay? Why can't you teach alone? You know why? Because teaching is very difficult, okay? Teaching is a lonely, lonely job in some cases, day in and day out. You don't have people coming in your room every morning, welcome to school, we honor you. We brought you a muffin, may your day be merry and bright. You slog in, somebody's been waiting since 7:30 since their parents dropped them off, so they want to come in and chat while you were going to grade papers. And you're like, why don't you do some homework while I work? We have a difficult job, and in order to do that job well, we need each other. Oh, fine, so now what, I have to go have lunch with everybody so I can be like all social? No, that's not what I'm talking about. See, and you guys who are laughing, you're like me. I'm like, why would I go have lunch with everybody when I can grade papers, right? But how are you making teaching not a solo activity for yourself and for others? For example, you don't have to go sit in the lunchroom to have somebody who you can share what you're doing with. Hey, I'm thinking about doing this, okay? I have a teaching partner. It's common at the high school level sometimes to combine curriculum. And I have English credential and math credential, and so the English side of me joined with the US history teacher, and we put the curriculum together, and then this was when laptops were like new and happening. We made a blended curriculum, integration of technology in a block schedule. Okay, so it's like 60 kids in a class. This is back when laptops had like dongles and Ethernet. That was it, no wireless and things like that. This teacher and I discovered that he would say something like, I want the kids to do this. And I'd say, well, what if we do this? And we would come up with things that we both were like, wow, that's a cool idea. And we acknowledged I had no idea what I was going to say until he asked me what he wanted. And then I would say, well, let's try this. And he'd say, well, I'd want this. And I'd say, well, do this. The collaboration between the two of us enhanced both of our teaching. It wasn't in the lunchroom. It wasn't at some in-service. It's because we both wanted to do a good thing for kids, and we'd been put together in that position. You're in a position to do that with the people around you. Hey, look, can we talk about this? Can I give you an idea about what I'm doing? Well, if I was a great teacher, I wouldn't be sharing, because great teachers don't share. Weakness, you know, weakness. No, weakness, that's called collaboration. It's called making things better, okay? So why can't you teach alone? Because it's lonely, it's ugly, okay? We have to talk about kids that they had last year. I used to kind of think, well, like, I don't want to know about the kid. I want a fresh start. I want a fresh start. And then I'm like, well, why didn't somebody tell me he sets fires? How come I didn't get that information? You know? One year I got a thing, this was years and years ago. It doesn't happen now. Years and years ago, I got this thing in my mailbox, like, I don't know, 2 months after school starts. It says, you know, Freddie is bipolar. And I'm like, as he's been to the North and South Pole, I don't know, what is Freddie? And I took it to the office, I go, what does this mean? Nobody knew. Nobody knew at the time. So I looked it up and I'm like, Freddie could be dangerous in my classroom. And no one's talking to me about it. I think you need to talk about kids, because sometimes what kids have done, have you ever talked to another teacher and it's October or November and you're like, yeah, well, you know, they do that. Oh yes, their parents like that. Well, why didn't you talk of that before? I get it. I think it's a really good idea to give kids fresh starts because they change. But what kind of key information helps you teach better when you're not teaching alone? Am I making you think at all here? You're kind of getting quiet, which is good. Whose classroom voice is the most meaningful? If I took a video camera, you know, and I came and looked in your room, I'd want to be able to see that you're somehow answering these questions during the day. If I took a video camera to your room and I left it there all day, who would be talking in your classroom? And whose voice is the most meaningful? Well, the teacher's voice, because we're the teacher. The children's voices, because they are learning. Okay, here's the deal. Sometimes the kids' voices need to be very, very quiet, okay? And the teacher's voice needs to be very strong. And sometimes the teacher's voice needs to be very, very quiet, and the kids need to talk. Ask yourself the question, whose voice is most meaningful in the classroom? And I think good teachers are going to say, it depends on what you're doing. Do you take the time to say, how am I going to use my voice today in relationship to the kids, okay? It takes a long time to work through kids' voices in learning. And I think some of the things you guys are learning, or you're not learning, is being brought forth a lot in Common Core is let the kids discover, let them talk about it, let's begin. And I'm thinking, awesome. Absolutely, I would love to be able to say to kids by simply asking questions, not telling them anything, to let them bring the knowledge and bring the critical thinking. But you guys know it takes time. And especially, bless you, elementary people, it's like, have any of you ever been to a place, you know, where there's a geyser? I went to Yellowstone and, okay, so 6 minutes later, the Yellowstone story is over. And you're thinking, okay, our discussion time on my lesson plan is up and only Freddie has been able to speak and everybody else still wants to tell us. You know what I'm talking about? So it's like, well, okay, thank you for telling me I need to help students discover, but that's going to take all day. Now, what would you like me to cut? Okay? We can discover, but we can't learn our math. So the deal is, think about how you use your voice, okay? Whose voice is the most meaningful? Are you taking the time to listen to kids? Are you listening the way you want them to listen to you? Entirely focused and not thinking about something else. Oh, I'm a teacher, I have to multitask. Well, I listen to the response, I have to think about what page I'm going to be on. Awesome. But the question is, do kids' voices give you clues about how all the kids are feeling? Do kids' voices give you clues about how to adjust that lesson plan because you just figured out they don't know the basic information that you were going to build on to build the lesson? So you have to continually ask yourself the question, who's in the classroom, whose voice is most meaningful? How good is my curriculum? What? Of course my curriculum is good. I am a good teacher. Well, yeah, but then somebody else next door, they got video cameras in that room and they're giving them an award and you're like, well, I thought I was doing well, how come you didn't stop on me? Teachers have this really tough responsibility to feel like they're doing the very best, and again, not all teachers get recognized. Good teachers say, look, I am doing my best, I'm being reflected, I'm working, you can keep the camera out of the room, I know I'm doing the right thing. But to do the right thing, you have to ask yourself this difficult question, how good is my curriculum? And if you are still using the same worksheet that you came up with 30 years ago, and it's a good worksheet, you keep using it, all right? You thought I was going to go, no, you have to throw it out. No, if it's good, and it's made it through the 80s and the 90s, and it's made it through the 2000s, you keep doing it. If it's good for kids, you do it. If you're using the same sheet because you're like, I'm good to go, using the same laminated stuff from last year, they had never been in my jungle, no problem. Got the same worksheets, worked last year, no problem. My kids are a little different. We don't use that book anymore, but it's not a problem. I'm too busy. That's not good curriculum. Would you guys agree? Now, the word curriculum, we get a lot of trouble because, like, what's curriculum? What are standards? What's methodology? What's curriculum? And there are a lot of definitions. And we get into this idea that methodology is curriculum. And there's been a lot of complaints nationwide about Common Core curriculum or Common Core methodologies being the same thing as Common Core, right? It's not. Common Core is a set of standards that says, what will kids learn? The curriculum is the set of lessons that you put together. This is my definition. The lesson you put together. And then you teach those lessons. Teachers are responsible for taking a standard or collaborative. Districts will start to come up with things pretty soon. They'll say, let's take the standards, let's create a curriculum, and then they may say, let's go for lessons, which is fine, except maybe it doesn't work in your room and you have to be able to raise your hand and go, love the lesson, but not my kids, okay? Well, why aren't your kids up to the standard? Because they're below standard, okay? So I have to work with them. So I'm going to have to modify that lesson. Why? Because I'm a good teacher and I love my kids and I know what I'm doing. Okay? Sorry, if I hurt anybody's feelings, I'm really sorry. But that you can't just say, well, this came down from the district, we'll use it. Getting together, pooling your knowledge, coming with lesson plans you can use, great idea. But being responsible for that plan and saying, my curriculum is good for my classroom is really important, okay? And understanding that you need to take the ownership of those lessons. It's very common when new standards come out, if there's too many standards, everyone sometimes says, well, you know, we'll just have to see how it goes. And I'm really confident you work in a district where that conversation will take place as soon as it needs to take place. We're having trouble getting to these, so what about these? And you guys who have been around for a while with the California standards that were previous, eventually districts started going, well, what are the essential standards? You know, meaning, what are the most important ones? Because we can't do them all. English teachers at the high school level generally went, wah, wah, we'll never be able to do all of them anyway. So we're just going to pick the ones that are most important. If you can't get to everything, of course you have to pick what's most important, okay? And you have to say, why am I not getting to them? You have to ask, how good is my curriculum? And a big challenge, if you're so set that you're just going to bust out stuff from last year and you know it's going to work with your kids, good for you. If you're ready to just roll through another year, don't. It's not another year, okay? It's a new year. It's a new Tustin Connect situation. You have new technology that you don't know how things fit. You have to keep saying, how good is my curriculum? And by the way, if you'd like to blame a district curriculum, I don't know how much you have. If you want to blame a district curriculum, perhaps it's okay to own the fact that that curriculum needs to be modified and you know how to do it, or you need help in how to do it. You are responsible for the lessons that take place, and they are directly connected to how well you know the kids in that room. Does that make sense to you guys? These are not easy questions, and you will ask them over and over and over, all year long as you teach. The second thing that I think a good teacher should do is be the verbs. I talked about bringing in a video camera to the room. If I came in and brought a video camera, or maybe I could just save myself time and install permanent cameras in your room and just watch you from afar or whatever. If I watched you, could I see you being the verbs in these ways? Pay attention to all of the T words, the apostrophe T words, okay? Apostrophe T words, I wrote them down here: can't, won't, don't, couldn't, wouldn't, and shouldn't, okay? Well, I don't ever want to say can't. Wah, wah, wah. Teachers can't, okay? We would love it to not be able to sleep. We'd get more grading done and we could laminate more stuff, okay? But we have to sleep. We have kids. We have lives. We have nutritional needs, all right? And people don't come in and go, how are you doing? You don't look like you've eaten. You're wearing the same clothes from yesterday. Did we go home? Well, no, I had some laminating and grading to do, and I had to get it done. Are you paying attention to the T words that are important to you as a person? Is it okay for you to say, Mrs. Jones, I can't call you after 5, even though you emailed me at 8:30 wanting to know what the work was because Billy didn't write it down? I can't come to your house by email after work because I want to live, okay? You have to be able to say that that's going to happen, all right? What shouldn't you be doing that you're doing now? What should you be doing? Those apostrophe T words that haunt we teachers, I can't, oh, I shouldn't do that, I don't do that, I won't do that. Re-examine those, pay attention to them, and when I look in your room, am I seeing you taking time for yourself? Am I seeing you taking time to be in collaboration with other teachers, because we talked about that's important? Am I seeing you taking time to empower kids instead of enable kids, which I'll talk about in a second? Okay? So what are those apostrophe T words that haunted you last year that you need to pay attention to this year? Is there something you won't do this year that you did do last year? Maybe you don't want to put it up on your wall right in front of the desk. No parent contact after 4. Maybe that's not what you're going to put up there, okay? But maybe you can begin to move in directions that help you grow as a person and a professional. Reach the doodle kid. You know who the doodle kid is. The doodle kid is the kid who's out there doodling. And you're like, oh, you're doodling. You're not focusing. Now, what does a good teacher know? The doodle kid may be doodling to help him focus because his mind is going so fast that he's 10 layers below what you're teaching in the questions he's asking. You're saying, today, we'd like to learn about volcanoes. And the kid's like, I know about volcanoes, but I'm wondering about magma. What are the temperatures of magma as it goes below the Earth's surface? And that's the kind of kid who sometimes doesn't have the control to realize that a lesson needs to take place, right? It's the kid who you're like, well, that's a good question, Johnny. And then you're like, I'm a good teacher. We'll just fold Johnny's question into the lesson. And you're like, yeah, look how I brought that together. But then Johnny keeps bringing up the questions. And you're like, Johnny, let's have some other people have a chance to not share, okay? Johnny, there's a way I need to do this, and I think it'll help for most people. So would you like to write those questions down? And if we don't get to them, you can come in and snack. We'll talk about them. Do you understand what I'm talking about? The kid's curiosity is so intense, okay, that if he doesn't have a focus, because he understands you have a need to talk to those kids, he needs to doodle. You know there are kids who need to doodle in your class in order to help the class and help themselves focus. Doodling is not evil, all right? Now you know there are kids who don't need to doodle because then they're giving themselves permission to be bored and learn how not to engage. I always talk to parents about kids in the class. This class is so boring. You're so boring. I just want to put my head down on the desk and you won't let me sleep. How come I can't sleep? And I'm like, well, you know what? Your mom and dad would like you to leave home soon. And eventually your mom and dad would like you to get a job so you can support yourself and they can stop paying for stuff. The number of jobs that allow you to get paid for coming and going, this job is so boring, I just want to put my head down. I know, I'm sure there's some, because he's always like, I'll bet there's a job where they do that. No, I don't think so. There's not many jobs where you go in and put your head down and go, I'm bored, and they pay you. There are also plenty of jobs where you can't go into the board meeting and doodle your way through the boss's presentation. The doodle kid is an important kid, because sometimes the doodle kid is saying, I have needs that I need you to know about, but I don't know how to do anything but doodle. Now, the doodle kid who's drawing pictures of him, cutting up his dog or something, well, there's some needs there as well, okay? So if you have a kid who's doodling, you have a tremendous opportunity to connect. Well, that's an interesting picture. Why is your house on fire? Right? If you say, a doodle kid, you're mine, because you are expressing some feelings through your art that I need to know about to help you learn. You're a doodle kid. You need to learn how to stop doodling, because you're going to take your doodle and share it with another kid. The doodle kid is somebody that you want to look out for to make their educational experience better, and you a better teacher because of how you deal with the doodles. Get yourself a t-shirt, doodle dealer. Just deal with it. Generate I know questions as springboards. Again, we talked about this earlier in discussion. A really good way to see how kids are learning is to start a discussion where kids say, I know. This is what we already know. And it's good teaching practice. What do they know? What do they want to know? What do they learn? They don't know anything. They don't want to know anything. Okay. Awesome, then. You have a challenge, right? But finding out what kids know is really important. And I think if I were to bring a video camera in your room, I would want to see you at least knowing the doodle kid was there. I would want to see that you were paying attention to the apostrophe T words in terms of yourself and your other colleagues and members of your family. Okay? And I would like to see you generating I know statements as springboards for discussion. What do you know? And especially when you have kids repeat it. It's really powerful when kids repeat what they already know, which brings up a really key point. Sometimes there's a rhythm of using your voice with kids or the way you structure lessons where you have an answer and you want that answer, and the kids know you want that answer. And of course, good teachers don't do it, but not so good teachers are like, what do we know about such and such? Kid gives an answer, you go, no. You go on. And anybody who's laughing would be like, no, I won't do that. The rest of you are like, why? Just tell them no and move on. No, that's not good, all right? The idea is, though, we want to know what kids really know, and we want them to say it. Because when kids say things, right, they earn it, that's a good idea, and they learn it and they own it more. If you say to kids in a class, what did you learn today? And you really want to know, you listen to them differently than, what did we learn today? Volcanoes have magma. Okay, good, but talk to me. What else do you know? You guys understand what I'm talking about? Have them tell you what they really know, and you be listening for that. And use that for a springboard for discussion and a springboard for learning. Having kids say, this is what I know I learned. I'm tutoring a 19-year-old who's working on a standardized test for entrance in the military. And I will say, okay, so what did you learn by this mistake we just made? And his eyes kind of glaze over and he goes, that I shouldn't have made a mistake. And I'm thinking, you've been in a place where no one really asked you what you know or made it your responsibility to know something. Does that make sense to you guys? And he was just like, yeah, I made a mistake. And I said, well, no, what did you learn here? What do you now know about solving a problem? And he's come to the point where he now will say, well, I went too fast on that problem. Okay? So having kids make I know statements are an important part of, I think, being a verb, being the action. When I say be a verb, I mean I want to see it in action. Discuss it, don't just show and tell, very similar, okay? If you have a lesson plan where you're just gonna tell them something and show them something and then give them something to do, you don't get the richness of their collaboration and their discussion. If discussion is not part of what's going on in your classroom because you've got so much to cover, we can't talk about this, kids, I've just got to shove it in your face and we'll move on. Not a good idea, okay? So think about how much time, and I realize some of you are like, look, it takes so much time. I have third graders and I can't do it. Of course you can't discuss all day, but how much discussion am I going to see in your class? Because discussion has such great value for the kids, and I think the good teacher uses it. Ask questions that aren't answered yet. There are people who ask questions that aren't answered who are annoying. Have you ever said to the kids, well, okay, I'll see you on Monday. Monday's a holiday, we're not going to be here. Raise your hand if you know what I'm talking about. And you're like, okay, I think it was only obvious we all knew Monday was a holiday. I said Monday because I have been here, okay, for 80 times 20 weeks. Okay, that's like lots of weeks, and Mondays usually come first. My bad. Isn't Monday a holiday? Oh, that's right, it is. On the other hand, isn't Monday a holiday? Oh, you're right. Okay, we shouldn't have it due on that day. Okay, so we'll move the deadline. I'm sorry, I missed that. Thank you for asking that question. Asking questions that haven't been answered yet can go either way, okay? You haven't answered correctly the answer to the question, what is Monday, teacher, okay? But what about questions that kids haven't thought about the answer yet? What about things that your colleagues haven't thought about? You can use this in the classroom. Ask questions that haven't been answered yet. Don't answer the question first. If you teach math, you're going to want to ask them the next question, and if you don't tell them the answer, they're going to put together what knowledge they have, and they're going to be able to answer the question. Good math teachers, a lot of times, don't really introduce new concepts. They derive new concepts from the knowledge that's already there, okay? So if you ask questions that haven't been answered, meaning you haven't asked them, the kids haven't asked them, you have a fascinating way of taking one thing and building on another. This doesn't work in like, well, what happened after the Civil War? We haven't studied the Civil War, so we don't know. Okay, what happened after the Civil War? We haven't done that yet. Well, yes, we have. We've talked about the Civil War. So what happened after the Civil War? We don't know. What do you think happened? Well, I don't know. There's a lot of burned houses. Well, what do you suppose that meant for the people in the houses? They're kind of sad about that, and they lost a lot of money. Who do you suppose was probably going to give them the money? I don't know. Who gave the people the money back for their houses that got burned in the Civil War? Teacher, O master of all knowledge, I stand by to enhance my learning by your answer. Well, the government or nobody or whatever. Do you guys understand the idea? Ask questions. I also think of this in a professional sense. I have repeatedly had to apologize to administrators for asking questions that were uncomfortable in terms of what had been told when I'm in an in-service. Excuse me, how could I possibly do what you're asking me to do? And I try to say it nicer. But I was in a Common Core training, and they were like, well, here are the new standards, and here's where we are, and so here we go. And my table, you know, you guys sit in tables, and there's always a troublemaker, and it's me. And I said, well, if we have a whole new set of standards, and we're already having trouble as it is meeting a timeline in algebra, how could we possibly introduce new things and continue? And the answer was, well, you could think about doubling up on the lessons. And we were like, so like teach 2 lessons in the same day? Well, yes, that would do it. And we were all like, wah, 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 wah. But then I'm the troublemaker. I'm the guy who asked the question. I'm the guy who asked the question that got in trouble. Okay, I have only a couple minutes. Super quick story. I was in a Common Core training, and they were doing math, and they said, I'm sorry. I know you had better Common Core training than I did. I know you did. They said, we're going to give you a mirror and some string and a ruler and some tape, and we want you to work together to find out the smallest area of the mirror that would show your whole image. So my table and I are like, okay. So I raise my hand and I go, I'm sorry, I just said I go. Does this sound like kids? I raised my hand and I said, Can we put the mirror on the floor? I'm thinking, how hard is this? Put the mirror on the floor, look down in the mirror, put the tape on, done. And the trainer said, oh, you can, that's something you guys should work out. I'm thinking, okay. So they let us go. My group is done in like 90 seconds, right? We put the mirror on the floor, we put the tape on it, we're like done. It made him really mad. It made him mad. Other groups are like put the mirror at an angle and they're trying to put it on the ceiling, and we solved the problem. Now what was I? I'm a kid who's trying to clarify the directions. But we seriously got in trouble because we were, smart Alex or whatever. But those questions have to be asked. Okay, now sometimes you don't have to ask them in front of the faculty meeting. Well, how are we going to do that? Because, yesterday you told me. Maybe those things should be done a little privately. Okay? But asking the questions, okay, that aren't answered yet solves all sorts of problems. When you sit down in a group and go, well, what about this? And someone goes, ooh, good question. It's worth all the time that someone goes, yeah, thanks for asking, right? But what are the questions that haven't been answered yet in your classroom and in your teaching? Finally, teachers have to have mantras. You have to have something to say to yourself every day, okay? You have to have things that you say every day when you come into the classroom. One of the things you have to say to yourself every day is, we're always on this side of paradise, okay? We're not going to be in paradise. The educational system is not a paradise. Newsflash, okay? It's not, because it's full of people who are struggling to make it better, and that's a good thing. If I am expecting paradise, I'm expecting something that's by definition paradise. How do you make paradise more perfect? Paradise is perfect, you can't make perfect more perfect. So we're always on this side of paradise. Now the question becomes, instead of saying, this is so bad, right? No, I'm not having a good day because, how about, yes, I'd have a better day if, okay? It's a whole different way of looking at things. And you have to just realize every day before you go in the door, I'm always on this side of paradise. And every once in a while, there's a day when they're all there. There's a day when they're all focused. There's a magical moment where you go, I'm getting paid for this. It's so wonderful, it's so right. But most days, there are fire drills. There's a fly in the room. Okay? As long as there are flies, there is educational disruption, all right? Sorry. We're always on this side of paradise, and you say that every morning when you go into your job or to your work. Related, of course, the better is yet to come. I left out the word best, okay? The best is yet to come. Perhaps striving for better is a better step than striving for best. Because it's a process. We're a part of an educational process that involves people and government and hierarchies and paperwork, and yet it affects our classroom. So every morning when you put the key in the door, assuming it works, we're always on this side of paradise. The better, I'm sure all the keys in Tustin work. I'm saying. The better is yet to come. And I should pray about that. I should meditate, I should reflect. I don't know what your reflective time is like, whether it's praying, whether it's meditating, it's reflecting and reading. Maybe it's all of those things. But if you're so busy getting to better every day, if you're so busy being the verb, if you're so busy asking the tough questions that you never take time to step back, if you never say, kids, mommy's going in a room now, daddy will be in charge, mommy's not doing laundry, mommy's not grading papers. Mommy, if you were to open the door, mommy would just be sitting and looking. It's okay, okay? Mommy is thinking about her life. And one of the things I'm going to think about, besides you and daddy, is students, okay? And where do you do your time of reflecting? A lot of times that's in collaboration with your teaching partner, your people in the building. Do you go out to coffee with people you teach with, not to talk about the other people you teach with, but to talk about what you teach? Okay? Is there time to spend thinking and praying and meditating about your kids? how many times have you felt, so bad about what you said to a kid because you didn't understand the whole circumstance? Why do you have to go to the bathroom all the time? Oh, now I know. Well, why didn't somebody tell me, right? How can I respond differently the next time, when there's so much going to the bathroom going on? You understand what I'm talking about? You have to take the time to step back and look at your job. Good teachers must ask tough questions of themselves. Good teachers are verbs that you can see acting out the teaching profession. And good teachers need mantras that they say. You are right now, right there. You have a tremendous responsibility. I've given you all sorts of stuff to feel guilty about and to think about. And I hope you'll spend the time doing that. It's important for you to remember that good teachers always, always, always make a difference. I'll stand behind that, okay? You make a difference because you care. I'm going to cry. Make a difference because you care. You come back to teaching for that reason. When you spend that time reflecting, you understand that you got into this job to make a difference. It's a cliche that's been around since people were holding, what do they call them? Protest signs in the 60s. Making a difference in the world, as Dr. Franklin said, begins here because our kids go and they inherit the world. Good teachers always, always, always make a difference. When my son went into the Air Force and he got out of boot camp, we were walking around and people are coming up and going, "Thank you for your service. Thank you for your service." And I'm like, I heard that on television, but they're saying it to one of my kids. And I'm standing there, and then I start thinking about what does that mean, to be in the military, and what kind of service is he going to, to provide for the country and provide for the world and provide for people. And I thought, wow, that is cool. It's a real honor, okay, for him to be doing that. And so I need to finish because I can't. I've tried to pull myself together to not cry. Thank you for your service. We as teachers have a tremendous job to do. And we need to be thanked. You have been thanked tremendously this morning by the district you work for. Let me add my thanks. To thank you for your service and remind you that because you work to be good teachers, because you ask the embarrassing questions of the people you work for and the people you work with, because you take the time to be the verbs, okay? If you're a smart teacher and you're a good teacher, you will not be denied the ability to make that difference. Thank you so much.
Important to have good friends. You do make a difference. It's all about you. The rest of us are here to make your work doable and make it more than doable, but something that's really, really excellent. And in that book that I mentioned earlier, The Multiplier Effect, there's a line, and I think it was by one of our early presidents, maybe one of the Adams. And he said, if you are a person whose actions inspire others to learn more, do more, or be more, you're a leader. And that's each of you. I hope you have a great year. We're looking forward to wonderful things together, and we're going to end on another happy note. Go get them, TUSD.